You can draw this in Procreate. During this super easy Procreate drawing tutorial, I will show you exactly how you can create this watercolor snowman. You don't need any experience with drawing or with Procreate to end up with a lovely result once you have finished this tutorial. The only thing you need is a canvas of 2500 pixels by 2500 pixels, and I have left a link to the color palette I'm using down in the description. It's totally free. So if you're ready, let's get started. We are going to start out by drawing 2 circles as a base for our snowman sketch. And to draw those circles and to draw the sketch, I would like to use the Bruni brush, which you can find in the pencils section. And for the color, you can just go for black. Now the opacity of this brush is at 100%, and I have my size set to 15%. And I'll just draw a circle here, pretty much in the center. Hold your pen in place and tap one finger on the screen for a perfectly round circle. And I will make a big circle here, out of sight here at the bottom. Then hold your pen in place again, tap one finger on the screen, and create a circle like this. This is the base for our snowman. And now we are going to lower the opacity of our layer. We'll tap the N here, set this to like 40%, and then make a new layer on top, so we can start building our snowman. For instance, our snowman will have a scarf. So we can make like these lines. Here we'll connect the head with the body. And then here we'll have that scarf hanging down. And then we'll have part of the scarf over here. And on top of its head, this is its head, of course, we'll have a hat. So first make a curve like this, and then another curve like this. So we'll start here and then loop around to the other side, creating the underside of the hat, and then just make a shape like this at the top for the top of the head. And you can see of the hat, of course, not the head. You can see that your sketch can be really messy. You don't have to create something super tidy. And then here we'll add a pointy carrot nose sticking out. So he's looking in the other direction with its tiny little eyes. You can just make these little oval shapes, and then a curve for a sweet smile. And here on its belly, it'll have these buttons. So you could go ahead and lower the opacity of those circles a bit more to like 15%. And now we can just sketch out the side of the head. And I don't want to go all the way to the bottom. I want to go to about here. And then its body like this. And of course, that scarf will have these fringes. So you can add some fringes and maybe like a curve here. Curve like this. And here as well, we can make some folds like this. You could at this point also lower the opacity of this sketch and then make a more tidy sketch on top. All possible. So I want some folds like this, and then here folds sticking out, and then we have this one. And we can also make a little pattern on the scarf, like these lines or bands of color. That'll give some more shape. You can make it follow like the curve, give it some volume like this. And then maybe here. And also on this side. You can make those follow these curves as well. And then over here. like this. For the hat, we can add a little band here. That'll be like a red band, and maybe some like leaves, like holly leaves with some like berries. Just some very simple leaves. Just at the edge of the hat. So yeah, that's pretty much all we need. We can turn off those circles. Yeah, we can remove that layer by sliding to the left and then tapping delete. So now we have a nice sketch of our snowman. I do see that I forgot these lines. Of course, this is also part of the scarf. So just some more lines here. And then we have a nice sketch. Now what we'll do is we are going to ink our snowman. And to do that, first we need to lower the opacity of this layer. So we'll tab the N, set it to around 30%, and then tap the plus for a new layer on top. And then for the brush, I'd like to go to the inks, there they are, and use the wrapping brush. Now the opacity is set to 100%. I have the size at 17. And now we are going to use this brush to go over our sketch, but make it a little bit messy. Make some wiggly lines. It doesn't have to be super tidy. You can have multiple lines. Also keep an eye on the amount of pressure that you use. If you press hard, then you get thicker lines. Now if you're heavy-handed, just make your brush a little bit smaller. But we want a bunch of these thin lines. Then for that carrot. So I want a bit of a scratchy, messy look. So this is a great way to let go of perfectionism. For the eyes, we can just make some wiggles. It's nice allowing yourself to work in a messy way. I always think that's fun. And then we have the side of the face. And then of course the scarf. You can vary the thickness of the lines a little bit. You can also add a little bit of like shading here, some hatches. And of course you don't have to follow your sketch exactly. We'll just go along all of our lines and also just add some extra lines, add some hatching, like I said, maybe some vertical lines. It'll add a lot of interest to this illustration. And for these buttons, we'll just make some rounded shapes again, just little wigglies. And then if you continue doing this, you'll end up with something like this. And now that we have our lines, we can turn off our sketch layer over here and we can start coloring our piece. So let's tap the plus for a new layer on top, and then we'll drag it underneath our line art layer. And then for our brush, we'll go to the watercolor brushes, and then we'll use the Bridgewater brush. And for the color, we'll start with this one. First color in the first row. Let's zoom out a little bit. Opacity of the brush is at 100%. Let's make it nice and big, perhaps 70%, maybe a little bit smaller, 50. And now let's go along the edges like this and create sort of a frame for our snowman. Make some rounded motions, creating a nice watercolor edge. And when you lift your pen, you get more paint. And I want the underside to be a little bit darker. And we'll just slowly build this up. So every time you lift your pen, you will get new paint. So I'm leaving it on the screen while I go over the entire area. And then when I want to go darker, I'll lift it again and go over. Now we'll go a little bit darker with the second color in the first row. And then we'll go over this lower area, making that a little bit darker. And then again, lifting it. And then if you want to blend it a little bit more, what you can do is tap that layer and then turn on alpha lock so we won't be able to go outside of the shapes. And then tap and hold the smudge tool to make it switch to the Bridgewater brush. And now I have the opacity at 100%, size at 23. And now you can just go over that area and smudge it a little bit, blend it a little bit, so we get a nice little gradient. Then let's turn the alpha lock off again. So tap the layer, turn it off, and then we'll go back to our brush, and then we'll use this color, third color in the first row. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, maybe like 30%. Let's see. I think that works. This will be like the underground, the snow, something like this. And now let's go lighter with the fourth color in the first row. Mix that a little bit here. It'll be something like this. Then let's move on to our snowman. Let's tap the plus for a new layer. And then let's stick with this color. Make the brush a little bit smaller, perhaps 15%. And go over the body and the head, filling that area in. And then going over again, we need multiple passes to make it opaque. And another brush you can use in this case is another watercolor brush. You can also use the Pacific Golden brush. We can vary a bit between these. This one has, well, it has like a bit more of a crisp edge. So that can be handy here. Opacity is at 100%, size at 6. So we can go along the edge, getting a bit more of a crispness. We just want to fill the shape of the snowman. And we want it to be fully opaque eventually. Of course, you can rotate your canvas to make some strokes a bit easier. And here, don't worry too much about making it tidy. You can go outside of your lines a little bit. It's all fine. And of course, you can make your brush a little bit bigger if you like, 20%. Just filling in that center area so you don't see anything of the background anymore. So yeah, something like this. And then let's move on. Let's make another layer on top of this. Let's tap the plus. And here, let's make the hat. Let's see, let's go for this color. Third color in the third row. Let's go over here. What you can do is turn off the background layer for a bit so you can see the hat. And just make a bunch of strokes filling this in. You can make the brush smaller at first, around 8%. And we're just going to fill that in. Go along the edge. Don't worry about the blotchy look. Also, don't worry about going over the nose, for example. Filling that in, let's also add a little bit of a lighter color. Let's use a little bit of this. That's the fourth color in the first row. Add a little bit over here, a little bit of light. And let's also go darker with this fourth color in the third row. And use that darker color right here on the left side. And also here on the underside. I hope you are having fun so far creating your own watercolor snowman. If following these tutorials is turning into an addiction and if you want to take it to the next level, then I would recommend checking out my Patreon page because there I have more than 250 Procreate drawing tutorials. So it's the perfect gift to give yourself. So if you are interested in joining, I will just leave a link for you down in the description and it would be great to see you there. But now let's continue. And now at this point, we can turn the background back on. Let's also use this color, fifth color in the first row. Make the brush really small, maybe 2%. Let's see. Yeah, that's nice, 2%. And now we can add a little bit of a highlight edge. Just around that edge of the hat. And also add a little light here and at the top. And maybe some light lines. Nice and a little bit messy. Then let's make a new layer on top of this. Let's tap the plus. And now let's pick this color, fourth color in the second row. And we can use that for that band on the hat. Let's make the brush bigger again. 15%. Now let's go smaller. 8 or yeah, let's go for 8. Fill in that area. And if you need more precision, of course, you can just go even smaller. Just don't make it too tidy. And we'll also use this color for the scarf. As you can see, every time you lift your pen, you will get new paint and it'll start looking more opaque. Just color it in entirely. Now once it's pretty much colored, you can switch the color. We can go for this one, second color in the second row, and use that for these bands. And again, no need to be super tidy. We're just layering these colors on top of each other, keeping things a little bit messy. Now we can make the brush a little bit smaller, 5%. Add in more of that blue. We can also go lighter with the first color in the second row, adding some lighter touches. Just on these blue bands. I want the light to come from this direction, so this area will remain darker. And we can also add some darker reds. This third color in the second row. You can add it here, and you can also go over to blue. No worries. Dropping in this color. Adding some shading. And it's so nice not having to be super tidy. Just letting that digital paint flow. And now let's go even darker by using this color, fourth color in the third row. We can just go over here. It's like the shadow area of the scarf here as well. And then let's go lighter. Maybe we can add a little bit of this red as well. Fifth color in the second row. It's a bit brighter. Some bright touches. I think that's nice. And we can also add that here on that band here. A little bit of brightness. Then let's go lighter with this color, sixth color in the second row. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 3%. Add some light touches. I think that's really nice. And also here, little light edge, maybe some light here. And then let's also add some brighter blue with that third color in the first row. Just a little bit. Now let's go even smaller, like 2%, and with the lighter color, that fifth color in the first row, for some backlight here. Some secondary light, making our snowman nicely stand out, and also some brighter lights here. Just thinking that we shouldn't forget those fringes, of course. Maybe some light here. Maybe a bit brighter over here. And here we need a little bit of shadow color. So let's pick this color, third color in the second row. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger again, 5%. Add some of that over here. Yeah, that's nice. And then the fringes. Let's pick this color first. Fifth color in the second row. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 3% or 2. And we'll just add some of this color. And then we can go for this dark blue, second color in the second row. Add some of that as well. And maybe some of that dark red, third color in the second row. I think that's nice. As you can see, you don't need much. Just a bunch of blobs and some rough painting, and it's already starting to look really nice. Now let's make a layer for, let's have the plus for the carrot. Let's use this color, a sixth color in the first row, and then let's color that in. Make the underside a little bit darker, more saturated. And we can use that light color, fifth color in the first row, for a little bit of a highlight. Let's make the brush smaller, 2%, and just go over the top here. I guess on this layer we can also do the holly leaves. Let's start out with this color, second color in the third row. Maybe we should go for this one since it's easier to see, and we can add that one later. Yeah, let's go for the first color in the third row. Color in these leaves. No worries about being tidy. It's okay if you spill a little bit. That just adds to the character of this piece. But then let's also use that second color in the third row. Adding some darker green touches. And then of course those berries. Let's use this color for that, fifth color in the second row. Coloring those in. We can also add a tiny little highlight with the fifth color in the first row, making the brush even smaller, 1%, for tiny little highlights, maybe even on the leaves. Now we need to shade our snowman. So let's go to that layer. And to make sure that we don't go outside of the shape, we can tap the layer and turn on alpha lock. And then, let's start with this color. Now with the fifth color in the first row, let's make the brush a bit bigger. And let's actually, shall we do this one? Yeah, we'll use this brush. Now let's go for 30% and lighten up the front of its face and of its belly. Add some light there, just like this. And I will add some shadow. Let's do that with this color, third color in the first row. Let's go over the side of its face like this, and the underside, and here the top edge, like a shadow underneath the hat, but also here on the left side along the scarf, underneath the scarf here, and also here. And we can make the brush a little bit smaller, like 10%, and then add tiny shadows underneath these buttons. You can deepen some of the shadows here. Some shadow for the carrot nose. Now we can also go a little bit darker with this color, first color in the first row. You can deepen the shadow a little bit here and in this area, and right underneath the scarf, maybe a little bit underneath the hat. And then let's also add rosy cheeks. Let's add this sixth color in the second row. Let's check the size. Oh, that's actually nice. Let's make rounded shape here and here. And we can deepen it a little bit more by going over again. I think that makes him extra cute. And then for the final touch, let's add some snowflakes. Let's go all the way to the top. Let's tap the plus. Let's go back to the inks, to the wrapping brush, and let's pick the fifth color in the first row. And now we are just going to add a bunch of random snowflakes. And I like how irregular this brush is. I like these shapes. These snowflakes don't have to be perfect circles or perfect dots. Keep it a little bit messy. Just go all over. Also over here. Until you have a nice spread of snowflakes. So I'd say something like this. And then there you have your super happy watercolor snowman. I hope you had fun, and I hope to see you next time for the next tutorial. Thank you for watching.